First of all, thank you for inviting me to your class. I'm looking forward to spending the next hour with you guys, and I'm interested in learning a lot about all of you as well. To start, my intro is not going to be what you're going to have today because there weren't opportunities when I first got started. I did play at NC State. I have a double major in business management and economics. There was no sports management undergraduate degrees. There was not a lot of PR or communications or broadcast journalism. Those things weren't options when I was going through college. I did immediately go to Ohio University. I received my master's in sports administration before they turned it into a sports ad MBA dual program. So I wasn't a part of that. But I have been on the air for 38 years. This is my 38th year calling men's and women's college basketball. And here's how I got started. I was 23. I was the director of marketing and athletics at the University of Kentucky. I was the first director of marketing and athletics. Athletics, marketing, sponsorship, and everything you know about external affairs in college athletics was not the same 30 plus years ago. We had a local cable company that came to us and said, we think we can produce sports. Now, you have to understand, ESPN's a little bit over 10 years old. The only women's basketball game on television at the time is CBS, the national championship game, not anywhere near the landscape that you guys live in or grew up watching. So it was a different time. So we said, well, you want to try to produce a women's basketball game? They said, sure. And I got to do the analyst or the color work, if you will. And so I was just recently removed from being a graduate assistant basketball coach at Ohio University. Coaching and administration were two parallel paths I was running at the same time. And this fueled my basketball passion. I wanted to be an athletic director at that point in my career. Because I had an opportunity to call the games, I called the games. We started creating a package. It started to grow through an external association that we had at the University of Kentucky called Host Communications. And it just continued to grow from there. I stayed at Kentucky for 4 years as the director of marketing. When I was 27, I got the director of marketing in the athletic department at the Ohio State University. I was at Ohio State for 4 years. When I got to Ohio State, I'm going to give you a little piece of history here. The Ohio State women's basketball program. Now, I was the director of marketing. I'm in charge of all athletics. So it's not just women's sports. I had the whole thing. And the only thing we really did back then was signage in football stadiums, very conservative approach to anything from a marketing standpoint. But very much like you guys, Ohio State has had 31 sports and at the time had a $33 million budget. Okay, now I think their budget's like $350 million. Okay, just to put it in context. At this point, we had the number one recruit in women's college basketball. Her name was Katie Smith. She has gone on to be a multi-Olympic gold medal winner. She is a Naismith Hall of Famer, incredible player. We already had a really good following. Based on my experience at Kentucky, I went to the local cable company because I was going to miss out on any opportunities to continue my broadcasting career at this point because there weren't any. So I went to the local cable company. I asked them if they could produce sports. They said they would like to try. I said, tell me what it's going to cost to produce 8 women's basketball games. At that point, it was going to be like $50,000. I really can't remember the number. As the director of marketing, I went out and I sold $50,000 worth of inventory to put the games on, and then we created a network. So I didn't really understand that I was creating a network at the time, but I did. I created a network. We produced the games. I called the games as the analyst, and that allowed me to stay on that parallel path that I was referencing before about wanting to be a basketball coach or wanting to be an athletic director. And then it just sort of merged from there. My husband and I have been married for 33 years. We have 3 boys. We had our first kid. I was the director of marketing and athletics. I was traveling with football and men's and women's basketball. And I decided to give it a try going full-time radio and television. And my oldest son is 30. And so for 30 years, I've been full-time in the industry, but I've actually been on the air for 38 years. So that's kind of a little intro into 8 years of collegiate marketing, athletics at 2 major brands, Kentucky basketball and Ohio State football. Obviously, you guys can argue what's a bigger brand or not, but we know how big the Notre Dame brand is, and that's sort of how I got started. I have I love what I do. It's pure joy for me. The travel does not bother me, and I enjoy being around the people inside the game. So I've had an incredibly long and successful and fun career, and I hope you guys all get to do the same thing for 30 plus years.
I know what an experience that is. I know the first time that I was asked to do play-by-play, Xavier women's basketball, they were coming off their second Elite Eight, and the school asked me to do play-by-play for the radio, and I, oh, sure. How hard can it be? Never done it before, of course. So, like, I ran to YouTube and looked at every video I could find, every radio call I could find to figure out how to do this. How did you figure out how to do it? Sometimes we get dropped off in the deep end and we have to learn how to swim very quickly. So how did you learn to do color?
Well, first of all, because I was in two major athletic departments, I had access to other things. So I have played just about every role. I've pulled cable for a camera. I've sat courtside and listened with a spare headset. I I'm a basketball junkie, so I had the fundamentals and the concepts inside the game already. I just needed to learn how to entertain and educate on the air. And so what it boils down to really is play by play tells you who and what, and my job as the analyst is to tell you how and why. I see Hannah popped up here. I'm going to pick on Hannah a little bit because Hannah is somebody that I know well, and I've studied her game, and I've watched her, and I've covered her for a long time. One of the things I love to say about Hannah that no one else says, and I take great pride in this, is that, Hannah never takes a negative step on defense. When she meets the other team at midcourt, she meets them square with her feet square, and she's not going to let you go left or right. As a matter of fact, she's going to force you further on the top of the floor. Okay. My job is to tell you how and why that happens. Why does that happen? How does she do that? What's the next play? Okay. Where does teams run offense? At Hannah because she's dangerous there, or away from Hannah because she's more dangerous away from the ball? So my job is how and why. And actually, if you think about, you know, looking at the game, listening to the game, I'm not just going to surface the play. Oh, wow, that was a great steal by Hannah Hidalgo. No, I'm going to tell you that Hannah is in the gap on the weak side. And because she has great instincts, plus she watches film, she can make this play. She knows they're going to reverse the basketball and she's ready to shoot the gap. Anybody can see that, wow, great steal. Last night I had the Duke men. I think they dunked on BC 6 times in the first half. All right. I mean, I'm not going to get excited about a 6'9" guy really dunking. I think 6'9" guys dunk. But if you make a big three late in the clock, or if you come off a stagger and your feet are square and you get your hips around, I mean, I'm going to tell you how and why things happen. I'm not just going to, that's just not my style. But if somebody does something that's explosive or unique or hard to do, I want to tell you how and why they're able to do it. That's my job. So I have studied more football analysts than I have basketball. And I say that because I try to take their vernacular and swing it around to what might be a basketball terminology. X linebacker sees the game through his eyes, right? Okay. Well, how does Hannah see the game? Right? I want to know. I'm going to ask her before the game. I'm going to try to find out if I can, when she's willing to talk to me. She's not always willing to talk to me. Hannah, she's kind of tight with her little circle there. But when she is willing to talk to me, she knows I'm going to ask her basketball related things because I'm interested in the basketball side of things. And that's what I do. And I love it. And I'm interested in it. I'm curious. And I think that's what has stimulated my passion for a long time is I'm very curious about the intricacies, the detail, the attention to detail, all the things that matter in the game that make teams successful.
And of course, that's why most every analyst out there is a former player because former players can tell you the why and how that happened and how it's set up. But you brought up a good point about calling men's games. Uh, is there a difference in your prep between calling a woman's game and a men's game, or is it all basketball?
It's all basketball to me, and I've been in the men's game since the mid 90s. So it's not new for me to call the men. I've been in the ACC, working on the ACC for a long time. The last 9 years, I've worked for CBS on the NCAA men's tournament, calling the first and second round of the NCAA men's tournament. It's just basketball to me. It's not a different prep. It is a very similar grind, if you will. It's a lot of film. The guys have a few more resources and analytics than we have on the women's side. There's places that I can go on the men's side that are not available on the women's side. I think those resources are starting to emerge. We're getting more analytical about what we do, but um, I have had people tell me to dumb it down on the women's side, which I absolutely refuse to do. I will not dumb it down on the women's game. I am not going to be condescending at all towards a women's female athlete. And I have had bosses that have asked me, like, they don't know what you're talking about, Debbie, when you go, X team has a 75% defensive rebounding percentage. Well, I'm going to use that number when I'm going to explain to you what that actually means. Because when I see a team that is number one in the nation in defensive rebounding percentage, that to me immediately leads to a couple of other concepts that I'm going to study. So I'm not going to throw that number out because nobody's going to understand exactly what that means. So you might want to explain it a little deeper. So I might say they have a 75% defensive rebounding percentage because their ball screen coverage is softer. They might go under, they might switch, so they don't really get out of rotation. Or their shot selection, they're forcing shots to keep the ball on the right side of the floor philosophically, so they know that the weak side, they've got to box out, they're going to be able to rebound. It might have something to do with the way, the pace they play. There's so many different things you can extrapolate from a number like that. So when I use a number like that, I'm going to tell you why that number is important. So you have a few more resources on the men's side, Betsy, than you do on the women's, but I do think the women's side is emerging.
And even if you're a casual fan, let's say, or a new fan of women's basketball, and there are many right now, that's the only way you're going to learn is if
Right.
someone like you uses those terms and then you figure it out. Oh, okay, that's what they mean. So that's the only way you're going to learn. But speaking of new eyes on women's basketball, you have had a front row seat to the Caitlin Clark effect with the Fever and what that has meant for the last couple of years, not just for the Fever, but for the WNBA and frankly, trickling down to women's basketball. What has that meant to you as a broadcaster? And I know you and I have talked about, did we ever think we'd live long enough to see this? Which is amazing in and of itself. But what does it mean to you who had to go to cable access and say, can you do games?
Yeah.
To now we're in this big contract negotiation about revenue and we're talking about millions of dollars and different outlets. Do you just sit back some days and go, what in the world has gone on the last couple of years?
It is pure joy, honestly, for somebody like me. And there's many that came before me that have fought so hard to give women opportunities to play and play on platforms that people would be interested in consuming. I always say the product is the narrative. It's one of the many sayings I might have on the air because our product is good. It has been good. It was good when I played. And we've had a lot of people that have been new fans to the game. This era that we're experiencing, because to Betsy's reference, I have worked for the Indiana Fever for 20 years on their broadcast package. And I'll share a little story with you about that. I call the time that we're in Clarkonomics. It's Caitlin Clark's reference to the number of eyes that she has helped bring to our game. She has set some records that could maybe be broken, maybe not. We've waited a long time for somebody to come along that had the skill set that is put on showcase like a derivative of Steph Curry, if you will. And it is very exciting for our game. And because we have more people that are consuming our game on many different platforms, it has economically changed the dynamics of our game. I call it Clarkonomics because I think Caitlin is the greatest disruption in the ecosystem of our game. We have had great players. It's not dismissive of anybody that's come before her. It is just a confluence of many things coming together with a player that set the records, that has the most points, that has the most threes, that has 40 something different records that she created in college. And it transferred over to the W immediately. Rookie of the year, first team all WNBA. And I call it Clarkonomics because it's my greatest way of sharing disruption. I think if you go back in the history of our game and when they write the history of our game, there's going to be Billie Jean King in women's sports. Billie Jean King, great disruption in women's athletics. Then Mia Hamm, the 99ers in soccer, great disruption. I would put maybe Serena Williams on that list, right? Incredible when the money and the purses went up, what she was able to do thanks to Billie Jean. And now we've got Caitlin. Clarkonomics. It's real. And you can see the ratings, you can watch, you can use any metric you want. You can look at the city of Indianapolis based on the economic sustainability of what she's been able to create. And then just the pure joy for me is when I see a little boy or a little girl wearing a WNBA jersey, and particularly a Caitlin Clark jersey around the city of Indianapolis, or I see people your age wearing a jersey with a women's basketball player on it, that to me is pure joy because that's not something we've ever seen consistently. And it's really fun to be in the environments, all the WNBA arenas that I get to go in because, they're full and a lot of them are full of Fever fans. It's very exciting and it's really fun.
Yeah, and I'm sure Hannah has seen it at Notre Dame games. I mean, there's little kids with their Hannah Hidalgo jerseys, which just makes you happy that this next generation is really going to be involved and invested in women's sports, because of players like that, really raise the game, I think, for everybody. But you were talking about the history of women's sports and especially women's basketball. As I mentioned in the intro, you played for Kay Yao, who is an icon, who is such a trailblazer in the sport. Tell us a little bit, for those who may not be familiar with Kay Yao, tell us a little bit about
Sure.
her as a coach, her as her legacy that continues today.
Yeah, thank you, Betsy. This is an emotional week because this is the start of the Play for K games where teams wear pink shoes, socks, uniforms, all using basketball as a platform to raise money and awareness around the fight versus cancer. So my coach, Kay Yao, is and was a 34-year head coach at NC State, 737 wins. Her next win is the fight and to beat cancer. 3 years she battled it, and she battled cancer in a very public way. There were times during games where she had her wig on, she had neuropathy in her feet, she had gloves on, she might have had an IV before she came out to coach her team. There might have been days where she had gone to the hospital to get an IV to come back so she could coach her team. And I called a lot of those games during that time, so it was a very emotional for me. I am very fortunate that I had a 30-year relationship with my coach. I hope that kids today get to have the same experiences that I had, but the transactional nature of the way people move around and the transfer portal and other things that are available to players today, that those weren't things that we did back then. We didn't go to summer school unless we needed some academic help to get ahead or behind. We were behind. We didn't stay on campus in the summers. It was a different time. But my coach is a Naismith Hall of Famer. She won 3 Olympic gold medals, 2 as an assistant, 1 as the head coach in 1988. She is very accomplished, and you can ask anybody in basketball now or 30 years, 40 years ago. You're never going to find anyone that ever had a bad word to say about Kay Yao. She was a teacher first. She didn't yell at us, but if you disappointed her, you felt the guilt of it. So if you didn't close out, box out, run the floor hard, she might say, and we loved her because we had great relationships with her. I was a camper. When I was 13, my parents took me to NC State. I sat on the railing across from the bench. And that was the first time that I knew girls played basketball in college and you could get a scholarship to do it. And that's when I made up my mind. That was my motivation, watching those women play, that was something that I wanted to do. And I wanted to make myself good enough that she would pick me. And so that's my 30-year relationship with her. I played for her, and then, of course, my broadcasting career intersected with a lot of her great championship level teams. But now her legacy is rooted in the Kay Yow Cancer Fund. So the fund has been around for 18 years. We have almost $10 million working in grants around the country in research. We are in partnership with the V Foundation, and the only thing we do with the V Foundation is we use their scientific review board to decide where we're going to put the money. And so we need that because they have a very extensive review board that can help us decide where the grants go. And we have $1 million grant that we're just finishing up at Duke. We have $1 million at the Lineberger Cancer Center at North Carolina. We have $1 million at Hopkins. We have $1 million at I think it's MD Anderson in Houston. So we have used the game and the platform of basketball to raise money and awareness around cancer. So on Monday night was North Carolina at NC State. It's the 21st annual Play for K game. It started out as Hoops for Hope, and it is one of the most impactful, moving experiences that anyone could watch on TV or be a part of. We have cancer survivors that come out on the floor that have survived cancer for more than 35 years. And we have some that have just been diagnosed in their first year. And there were 117 women that were on the floor. I MC the halftime of it. I talk a little bit about Kay in the beginning, and then we bring the survivors out, and it is a celebration. And it's a very moving moment. And NC State serves as the epicenter of what we do around the women's game to educate and to get people to know that early detection is a real thing, and ask people to be aware of getting your mammograms and getting your screenings. And you guys are young, but you need to be thinking about your parents, the women in your lives, and making sure they're taking care of themselves, because early detection does save lives. And because of research, we have been able to do that. We need to keep that going, because I'm sure I lost my mother-in-law in October. And I'm sure that all of you have had somebody that's been affected by cancer. So it's a real thing. And we really need everybody to be aware and to help somebody that's maybe next to them.
Yeah, good point. It just shows you the reach that sports can have, and especially at a time when some of those grants for research are being cut or being delayed. It's more important than ever to be able to fund things like that. So, yeah, thank you. I wanted you to tell us a little bit more about KYAL and your experiences. So, let me open it up to some questions. Again, I can't see everybody all at once, so please jump in if you have any questions. Go ahead, Cooper. I see you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, Debbie. I really appreciate it. So my question is, so I'm looking to go into to do play-by-play for non-revenue generating sports, specifically like swimming. When with you starting women's basketball at a time where it wasn't a huge revenue generating sport, like what is your advice as you're getting into a sport that's not going to bring a lot of money, may not have a lot of coverage?
Well, Cooper, I think number one, if you see somebody doing something that you really want to do, I think you should investigate and reach out to them. Okay. And I'm sure you have. I'm sure it's a big part of networking and the things that Betsy has taught you guys in class. And it doesn't have to necessarily be just your sport, but learning from someone that does the job that can help you understand what the basic fundamentals are of, that, like I said, the how and the why for me, the who and the what for play by play. Get into an environment where there is television being produced and learn all the aspects of the job. I say this, you bring up a point, you make me think about especially for the young women, especially the young women that are athletes on this call. Athletes can carry a camera and can do some jobs that are behind the camera that a lot of people don't think about. There are not a lot of women that are crewed to do some of the jobs that are very physical in what we do. And if you're a female athlete and you're interested in this, it's a great way to get yourself in the door so that you can work your way to being on camera. That's what I would say to you, Cooper. Find somebody that does something that you're interested in. Follow up. I don't know anyone that would decline speaking to a student. If they do, call me and tell me who they are because I will call and give them hell for it. You're not supposed to do that. Okay, you're supposed to help the students and try to get um, some stuff on film or on tape. You know, you guys have incredible resources available to you through social media. You can create your own YouTube channel. You can go out and buy yourself an Osmo camera and shoot some stand-ups and do some things creatively that get yourself telling stories and get yourself in front of the camera. And you can even as simply as go to one of Hannah's games and sit on the top and take your recorder and practice play by play while you're sitting up in the stands until you get an opportunity to do it. And maybe you are already doing that. But that's I hope that's some advice that can help you. But you guys you have to create your own niche. The environment is so competitive. It's so many more opportunities. There's more inventory out there to broadcast, but it's a very competitive field. And I know one of you guys is either going to be my bosses or you're going to take my job. One of you, that's probably going to happen.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I know my wake up moment was one time that I did, actually it was Northern Kentucky University. I did a men's basketball game and one of my former students was my color analyst. And I said, I did give you an A, didn't I? He goes, oh yeah, you gave me an A. I go, good. We're all good. So yes. And I have said that more than once, Debbie, and thank you for emphasizing that. You know, we want to help you. We want you to succeed. So don't hesitate to ask folks. Don't hesitate to link in with the folks that I have on here. We want you to succeed. We want you to someday, you know, be our colleagues or be our bosses. That's what we want. So don't hesitate. You know, if there's somebody doing what you want to do, you know, ask them for some advice. So anybody else with a question? You want to jump in? Hannah, go ahead.
Hi, Debbie, how are you?
Good morning, Hannah. Great to see you.
Yeah. So my question is, do you find like it hard to balance being honest while doing play-by-play while still respecting coaches and players, or are you just brutally honest and don't care what comes with it?
That's a great question. So when I'm calling games, it doesn't matter what level the game is, whether it's on CBS in the men's tournament or it's two teams in the bottom part of a league that will never cut down the nets. I'm going to deliver the exact same prep, the same call, and something that advances our game. I'm not trying to pick on or beat up. I'm trying to elevate our game. So I would choose options like particularly in a late game situation. Let's say you guys are up 3 with 12 seconds to go and you have fouls to give or you don't. You know, what are the options there? I'm not in practice every day, so I don't know exactly. But if I've had a conversation with Niel and I say, "Hey, what do you do in those situations? Do you work on 2-for-1s? Are you going to foul? Do you practice it?" I want to know those things going into the game so that I can provide options. Last night I was listening to the call of another person, and this particular team was down by 3 with about 15 seconds to go. In those situations, I'm a big believer that unless you can get a really good wide open 3 from your best player, get a quick 2 and extend the game. So I offer options like that. So I'm trying to give the viewer options to consider and think about. here's one that I'm really big on, Hannah, that I'd love to get your perspective on. Let's say, okay, let me use North Carolina, NC State, for example, fourth quarter. Did you see the game by chance?
I did not see that game.
Okay. North Carolina, inside a minute, had 0 team fouls. Okay. So obviously you think they're going to foul. NC State was up by 2. Let me get this right. Yes, NC State's up 2 with the ball. Okay. So obviously North Carolina wants to foul. They've got 4 fouls to give. Okay. NC State called timeout to advance the ball. So when you advance the ball in the women's game, you can choose which side of the floor you want to inbound it from. Right? All right, you're with me? So North Carolina has 4 fouls to give. I'm saying because you inbound the ball on the sideline, if you inbound the basketball below the free throw line, where the next inbound takes place is on the baseline. Now, you know, as a player, it is much harder to foul when they're trying to run a baseline out of bounds play to score than it is when they're running a sideline out of bounds play when you keep passing the ball past the top of the key. All right. You can do that, right? North Carolina is going to take off some time. Okay. But I think it was the other way around. Actually, I think North Carolina was up too. But I'm like, pass the ball below the free throw line. I keep saying that, and coaches don't want to do it or don't think of it, or maybe their players can't inbound the ball there. But I'm not going to lose my mind over suggesting that you inbound it below the free throw line because it's going to give you a better scoring option when you know they're trying to foul. Can you imagine running an up screen or a flare and you know the team wants to foul and you're in the act of shooting and you make it? And now you're going to be tied with going to the free throw line. You want to be careful about situations about fouling. So those are the things that I'm always thinking about are options. What is the best way to educate the viewer? What are some things to consider? Why might somebody choose to do this or that? Maybe I saw something on film. Maybe on all the out of bounds plays that you guys run, let's say out of a box set. These are the options. So those are the things that I'm really drilling in on in game is I think my job is to educate and to advance and to entertain in some ways. So those are the fundamentals that I'm thinking about in those situations.
Good. Thanks, Hannah. Anyone else with a question? Molly, go ahead.
For being with us today. As someone who's really starting out in color analyst for women's basketball, I'm really curious. As for your prep, what gives you the most valuable on-air film? Is it more like observational? I know you mentioned like explaining what's going on and off the ball, and saying those things that maybe people wouldn't just automatically know right away, and kind of give you more of an explanation. So, kind of what goes into your prep for that, and are the best strategies?
So, Molly, I think for me, I watch a lot of film. So I'm looking for tendencies. And there are some resources that, like, if I wanted to watch every one of Hannah's 37 points the other night, I can easily pull that up. And in 10 minutes, I can watch every one of her baskets. But I also can go and watch maybe the shots that she missed. And then what I would look for is why did she miss them? Did the defense do something? Was it a late clock situation where she had to hoist? Was the ball stuck in somebody else's hands when they know under 10 seconds they want it in Hannah's hands and she had to, so I'm looking for something deeper. I'm taking a deeper dive. Okay, like for example, I can pull up on Synergy, which I just did last night. I had Cam Boozer. Okay, he's the number 2 scorer in the nation, 23 and a half points last night going into the game. I pulled up his shot chart because I was curious. Where is he most effective on the floor? Does Duke run stuff to get him the catches where he needs? He's a almost 70% finisher at the rim. Okay, well, he catches it deep. He works hard to get deep position. I want to see where he's catching the basketball. So Synergy will tell me he's a 70% finisher at the rim. But what I also learned is all season, he is 3 for 12 in the mid-range. Okay? When I watch Zoe Brooks and Zam Jones from NC State on Monday night, Zoe is very heavy right hand score mid range. Okay. And Zam hasn't made one shot in the mid range on the right side of the floor. Okay. Well, if I know that, certainly Hannah knows that. Okay. So how is Hannah going to guard Zam Jones? She's going to force her left. Force her left. Okay. Force her right. Force her right. And for Zoe, you're going to force her left. Force her left. Okay. So that's the stuff that I'm looking for, that I look up. I mean, points per possession is something that is becoming very much a part of broadcast now, but it's taken some time for it to get in. Not everybody understands what that means or what the formula is that goes with it. In TV, sometimes we don't have time. Things happen fast. Last night, when we came on the air for the Duke game, so I look at it like, okay, we know how good Cam Boozer is. We know he's second in the nation in scoring. Okay, we know he's a great passer, but let me figure out a different way. So I decided to, you know what, he's a pretty good defender. Duke has changed what they're doing to keep him on the floor 32 minutes a game. Okay, what are they doing that has changed? Okay, it's the way they're guarding the ball. They're not switching. It's the coverages in ball screens. It's those kind of things that I'm looking for. And that's what I would share on the air. He plays 32 minutes a game. That's top 10 in the ACC on the men's side. He's never fouled out of a game. Okay. He leads them in assists and steals. How? He's 6'9". He plays in a, okay. So though that's the curious stuff that I started with. I'm curious. I want to know, why is that happening? How is that happening? And those are the things that I'm trying to deliver. It's like my examples. Hannah, were you on when I was talking about a negative step?
Yes.
Yeah. Has anybody described you that way?
I don't think so, no, just you.
Exactly. Okay. So it takes a lot of film to watch, okay, to figure it out. And I don't get it maybe the first time I have her games, but remember, I've been calling her games for 3 years. So I've been watching her and watching her mannerisms, her tendencies. Um, she's just one example because she's on the call, but I do that with I don't even know how many players that is, Betsy, between the men and the women. If you just think about the ACC alone, 18 teams, men and women, that's 36 in just the ACC. And then I have a heavy national package on the women's side. So, and in the non-conference, it's mostly not ACC men's stuff. It's other conferences. So, or it might be an ACC, you know, like I had Texas A&M in the beginning of the season. Who knew that Texas A&M men would lead the SEC at this point in the season? Like buckyball is real. I called it. I watched it. I know what it is, so I can reference it. So there's stuff like that. I am a junkie. I play golf. I don't have a lot of other hobbies. So this is what I like. And then last year, between college, because I do work for ESPN, I did work for CBS, I worked for Westwood One on the Final Four, and I worked for the Indiana Fever. I did 103 basketball games last year alone, which doesn't count all the other things that I do around my world.
Thank you so much.
I hope that helps.
And one thing that you all will find out, you can learn a lot about a particular game if you go to the practices, the day of practices. Usually the coaches will let the broadcast team come in and watch the practices, and the coach will come over and tell you things knowing that you're not going to run over and tell the other coach. They will tell you things to watch for during the game. You know, we're going to, every time Hannah crosses midcourt, we are going to double team her immediately. Well, they trust you that you're not going to run over to the Notre Dame bench and say, hey, that this is what they're planning. You know,
Okay.
the first time that you break that, go ahead.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Betsy. You bring up a really important point. I've been doing this for 38 years. I would not be doing this long if I betrayed one confidence that I picked up that was something that a coach gave me. I have worked really hard to network my opportunities around the game. I'm not going to name drop you, but I'm just telling you that being a resource for coaches, being someone they trust, being someone that understands the business. And let me say this about shoot-arounds, because not every coach lets you in shoot-around, regardless of whether you're carrying the CBS mic flag, the ESPN flag. Sometimes coaches just, they don't. Not everyone lets you in. And it might not have anything to do with the trust factor or not. It might just be something else. I don't get caught up in that. This is my attitude on it. My attitude is, I'm going to shoot around. Yeah, I'm going to benefit from it, but mostly I'm going for you. I'm going for you. I want to see the first three things you work on. What's the narrative of the game? What is your voice saying to your team? What's the tone? Because if I see that, for your example, that they're going to trap Hannah every time she comes across the floor, I already know that Hannah's untrappable and flappable. She's the quickest player in the league. You're not going to be able to trap her. So if you're going to try to do that, she's going to make a play out of that. She's going to split it. She's going to play over the top. She's going to find somebody cutting on the backside. She can make that skip all the way over. So I'm the first time you do that, you're done. Now, yesterday, I had BC Duke men. I went over to Cameron. I walked in the building at 11. BC's practice. Earl Grant, somebody that I have known for years, because even though I never called one of his games at the College of Charleston, I live in Charleston. I went to a lot of his games. I went to his practices. I went to learn. And putting yourself in those positions gives you some measure of credibility and trust. Earl's my buddy. I know Earl. He's my friend. He told me a lot of stuff about his team. Some made the air in an edited form. Some did not. Same with John Shire. John spent 15 minutes talking hoops, talking ball. John Shire, the day before, he has this big splint on his middle finger. Okay, if we had not been in shoot-around, I might not have seen the splint until the moment he walks out on the floor to coach his team. Well, what I learned is he played pickup. He broke his finger. He's got a 6-week splint. Okay? Not only did he break his finger, but he broke it playing pickup, and some of his players were in the gym watching. So when he broke his finger, he didn't quit and wimp over to the sideline and go, "Oh my God, I broke my finger." No, he toughed it out because his guys were watching. Now, if I don't get that story from him, you can extrapolate a lot from that. You can take a lot about John's character from that, his toughness, his resolve, and also a lesson he's trying to teach his kids, right? Play through. Okay? It's just a mindset. But if you're not around, now, do all my colleagues go to shoot around? No. Do some of my colleagues get told they can't go to shoot around? Yes. Have I been told that? Very few times. But that's because I've worked really hard to put myself in a position where there is that trust. I want to share one quick story with you. Can I share? Do I have time?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to give you an example of trust. A couple of years ago, I had West Virginia men in the NCAA tournament. Bob Huggins was the head coach. They're playing in San Diego, first and second round. Okay. I had not had West Virginia that season. So I had not covered West Virginia that year, and I had never had West Virginia on my schedule. All year, everybody is calling West Virginia Press Virginia because Bob Huggins' team, his tendency was they press you the whole game. They're going to be on the ball on inbound, and they're going to press, trap, run and jump, all this stuff in the backcourt. Everybody called it Press Virginia. Well, I didn't want to call it that because everyone else was calling it. So I'm studying them thinking, what can I do with their defense? Because they had the number one defensive player on the top of the floor, a guy named Javon Carter. He was the National Defensive Player of the Year. And on the back of their defense, they have the top shot blocker in the country. His name was Sagabal Kanate. Anybody with me? Remember any of this? Okay. Get two really good defenders. I'm not going to call them Press Virginia, but what I did was I downloaded every one of Sagabal Kanate's block shots. It was like 120. And I watched every one of them and I charted them. Did he block them into their transition game? Did he block them out of bounds? Did he block the shots and the opponent kept them? And I kept a chart, right? I gave it to CBS. They're like, wow, this is great. Let's create this big graphic and fancy animation and do all this great stuff with it. So I give it to CBS. They create it. All right. We go to practice. So in the men's tournament, there are 8 practices the day before the first round because we call 4 games. Okay, so West Virginia comes in, they go through their little shoot around. Bob Huggins comes over, he sits in front of me. Keep in mind, I've never met him in a basketball related way, calling his team. I'd met him. I knew he knew who I was, and he knew I was there for the game. I started asking him some heavy level questions about his ball screen coverages. I started asking him some in-depth questions about the game plan. And he was doing this. Yes. No. Yes. Okay. So, all right. I get what's happening here, right? He's not going to give me any information because he doesn't trust and he doesn't know. So if he doesn't know me, why would you give somebody, just because I'm sitting there wearing CBS does not mean that you're going to tell me your game plan. I'm working now. I'm the only woman. So there's 5 guys sitting there with me, and he walks away and the guys go, "That was really disrespectful." I said, "No, it wasn't. And I'm not going to be an ass about it because he doesn't know me. He doesn't trust. So I'm not worried about it. I'm going to do my job." Okay. They win. So the next day we play 4 games. West Virginia wins. The next day we've got 2 games, 4 teams practice. I'm in the gym for practice. West Virginia comes in. Bob Huggins walks in the gym and he walks in and he gives me one of those. So I give him one back, right? All of his assistants come over. Now they want to meet me. They hadn't met me before. Okay. They want to say hello. They saw what I had done. They knew how much work it required to do that, considering the day that we had. I had to do it all in advance. That's a lot of prep. 8 teams for 4 games on one day. That is a lot. Okay. But it's awesome. Right. So they practice. So now after they've come over and said hello, so I'm like, okay, well, they listened, or they Googled, or their buddies told them, "Hey, she's all right. Hey, whatever they said." Okay. It was obviously positive. They're practicing. I'm sitting free throw line extended, press row. We've been in there a long time. I'm sitting press row, free throw line extended. I'm eating a salad, fork in my hand. They're in front of me. Guy throws a cross-court pass. It's coming right over the head of the kid in front of me. It's coming right at me. So I just reach up, snag it, left-handed. Okay? All the guys laugh. "Oh, look at this old lady over there, eating a salad, catches the ball," right? I throw it back on the floor to Huggins, and I say to him, "And I'm right-handed." They all started laughing. Well, when Bob Huggins came over to sit in front of me this time, I could ask him anything I wanted. He answered everything I asked with great detail, with incredible foresight, and advanced what he thought would happen. It was just a great basketball conversation. And that would not have happened if 2 days before I had acted like an ass, or that I'm here and you should tell me. No, I get it. And just because I've been around so long, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? I'm working for CBS on the men's tournament. I don't need to validate that I'm here because I know what I'm doing. CBS hired me for the men's tournament. I don't need to say anything. I don't need to do anything. I just need to do my job. And because of it, it turned into be an incredible relationship. The next year, Bob Huggins' team played in the Charleston Classic, which I was assigned to do. I had his team 3 games in a row. I think if we had time, we were going to go drink a beer together. We didn't have time to do it. But that's what happens because I didn't act like a jerk. And if I had, I would not have had the opportunity to do that, because once he saw what I had done and the way the game went, it worked out. It's a great networking story. It's a relationship story. It's a story about understanding, you got to have awareness, and certainly you have to be self-aware. And I am self-aware in certain situations. But basketball is basketball. It's like what the first thing you asked me, Betsy. It's a game. And the coaches know right away whether you know what you're doing or not. TV people might not. Production, they might not all get it, but we have some really good producers and directors, but not everyone understands the game like we do. So You just got to do your job and be ready.
Yeah, that's very true. And I, of course, covered Huggins here forever at UC. And you're right. Once he knows what you're talking about, and once he understands that, yes, you know the game and you've done some research, you've done some homework. Yes, he was nothing but gracious to me when I did interviews with him. I did coaches shows with him. He once he figured out that you knew what you were talking about, he was nothing but nice. And
Betsy,
yeah,
before we go, I want to share one more thing if I can.
yep,
Okay. You guys see this right here? Guys got it? This is my middle son, Frankie. Can you see it? I have three
yep, we see
boys.
it.
Okay. 3 boys. My middle son has Down syndrome. He's 28 and he lives at Clemson. He is a graduate of the Clemson Life program. Life is an acronym. Learning is for everyone. So Clemson provides a post-secondary educational experience for students with intellectual disability. Has anyone seen the Netflix show Love on the Spectrum? Then you've seen my son Frankie, because his roommate for 4 years was Tanner Smith. Okay. This logo, can you try it? Got it? All right, Hannah, you better be paying attention to this part of it. Okay. I know you've been paying attention. 24 hours, nothing but net is my fundraiser for Special Olympics. 24 hours, nothing but net. I make 100 free throws on the top of every hour for 24 straight hours. So at the end of 24 hours, I've made 2,400. I've done it for 7 years. In 7 years, we have raised $1.4 million for Special Olympics. Okay. The fitness and the training that comes with preparing to do this is no joke for me. Okay. I do get AARP mail, so in case you're wondering, it's not an easy task. I'm not that young. My oldest son is 30. The training that comes with it is real. I can't just walk out there and make 2,400 free throws. It takes me about 15 minutes on the top of every hour to make 100. My 7-year free throw shooting average is 93. Okay. It's not about the percentage or really about the free throws. It's the vehicle to raise money and awareness around Special Olympics. My son is a Special Olympic athlete and benefited greatly from a chance to play. Okay, because he could play in an environment where he could have success. He learned the same things every athlete learns about being on a team. And those qualities helped him have the confidence, and for me to have the confidence to let him go 4 hours away from home for the first time to go to college at a place that provided this post-secondary experience for him. Right now, he is living independently with support, has 2 jobs. He's good for a 3 or 4 hour shift that he can walk to. He Instacarts his groceries. He does not need any mass transportation at all. He doesn't need any transportation. He walks. Clemson is a perfect community to have this program. There are currently, it's 17 years old. There are currently 45 students in the program, but there are about 40 alums like my son Frankie that have maintained a community at Clemson. This is going to be year 8 for me doing this event. So I'm asking you guys, if anyone could give 1 penny for every free throw I make, it's $24. And if you know somebody, or if you have a Special Olympic athlete in your life, if you would go to 24hoursnbn.com, that's where you can make your donation. Okay. The first year I was in a gym. The last 6 I've been in my driveway. So the 93 shooting outside involves the elements, and I've had every element: heat, cold, rain, wind, thunder, lightning. I've shot through thunder and lightning. Okay. So I'm doing this because I want to help families like mine. my son benefited greatly. And now there are other programs around the country that are popping up all over the place that provide opportunities for families like mine, students like my son, Frankie. And I want to share that with you because it's a very important part of how I've used my basketball platform outside of, the boards that I serve in, including the KL Cancer Fund Board. And I'm on the board for Special Olympics South Carolina. But 1.4 million is not something I ever thought I would say. And in the next 2 years, I'm going to cross 2 million. And I'm going to keep doing it until I can't do it. And if I can't do it anymore or my percentage drops to an embarrassingly low amount that I can't survive and think that is because we do live stream it and the live stream does help us raise money. And so when people tune in to watch me shoot, and I never thought anybody would do that, but when they do, I don't want to be shooting a bunch of bricks. And by the time I get noon on a Saturday to noon on Sunday, think about 3, 4, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. By the time I start getting around to 7 and 8 o'clock a.m., I don't want to be missing a lot of shots up front because it's getting harder. So I'm sharing that with you because I'm just one person that came up with some crazy idea and it worked. And I've been able to use my resources, not on the air. You're not going to hear me talk about it on the air. I just use my network to try to raise as much money as I can for Special Olympics because it's important. And because we love sport, you guys love sport. Just think about ways that you could get involved some way because I do think giving is a skill. And I do think that it's a part of the Notre Dame culture. And so I'm not asking you just to donate. I'm just asking you to get involved somewhere and use your time and talent. And I'm sure you do.
Yeah, Debbie, thank you for that. And I'll put that link on our notes on our Canvas page when I send out the link for Debbie's interview. And you're right. I mean, so many of the NIL deals, so many of the student athletes here, that NIL deal partners with a charity, with a nonprofit. So, I always say that once you get into the habit of giving, once you get into the habit of charity, then it's something that you carry throughout your life. And Notre Dame students are learning that right now. That's for sure. Debbie, fascinating. Thank you so much for taking time out. And your next game is?
My next game is tomorrow. I have Clemson, North Carolina women. And then my next game is North Carolina, Miami men. And then the NCAA is by invitation only, and I did get an invite to. They're having a mock selection process meeting
Ooh.
where they teach us about the selection process. So, Hannah, if there's anything you want to know, you better get it to your SID to get it to me. I will say this too, one little rule I have, I don't no athlete that currently is playing college basketball is allowed to have my number until they graduate. So after that, if they want my number and they want to call me, they certainly can. So if any of you are looking to reach me, you can reach me through the Betsy or through the sports information office. And but I can't give out my number because it's just my rule. It saves everybody from a lot of hassle. It protects me and it protects the players.
Yeah.
I don't want to be involved in anybody's drama. I just want to call the games.
That is true. Yeah. If you want any follow-up information, please just let me know and I'll make that happen. Again, Debbie, thank you so much for your time. I know it's such a busy time for you. So thank you for your advice. Thank you for your wisdom. And especially thank you for telling us about not only Kay Yao and your involvement, but the involvement with your son as well, both incredibly important causes. And we're so thankful that you took the time to tell us about it, as well as telling us about your career and giving us some good advice for the students.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
I wish everybody well. Good luck. If you see me at a game, I'll be there for the NC State game on February 15. If anybody wants to meet me for coffee that morning, let me know. We can do it. I'd be happy to spend some time with you if anybody wanted to.
Great. Thank you so much, Debbie. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of the season in the NCAA tournament, and I hope to see you at Fever Games when we get into the WNBA season here coming up. So thanks
Hopefully
again.
soon.
I know. I can't wait.
Yeah, thank you so much. Best wishes, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Debbie.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.